Bulletproof Radio, a state of high performance.
Now, if you were to stand up and if you were to market to an older audience, you might stand up and say something very much like, "Look at all the success. You know, I've done really, really well, et cetera, whatever." If you were to take that and translate it to a story that would work for a younger audience, but you want to convey that same idea, how do you flip it? What do you do in order to basically?
How do you turn bragging into a story?
Assuming that the bragging is there, so
really well. I'm really good at what I do.
Well, in fact, I'll put it out there. I lost 100 pounds, right? And I'm not bragging about it. I still have stretch marks. I was obese for much of my life, right? The only reason I bring this up is that when I'm talking with people who are trying out the stuff that I do, the stuff that I wrote about in my New York Times bestselling book, it's illustrative of the point. But honestly, it's not, hey, look at me. There's 10,000 guys who are more ripped with better abs than me. But it's like, look, this is an example of what you can do. How do you do that? Because I don't really brag about this. But there are people who are like, oh, Dave likes to talk about himself. No, I like to talk about how you can lose a ton of weight, and I just happen to be.
Why don't you just talk about how you can lose a ton of weight?
Cool.
Just shift your pronouns.
Okay, cool.
All right? It's not hard. It's just getting rid of the words I, me, mine, my,
Amen.
and change it to you.
Yes.
Right? You is both plural and singular. And so just shift the pronoun around and one way to get it back to your success is to tell a story that stars you, whoever you're talking, and reach where the person is. This is the technique, or this is the change that you have to make in your lifestyle. And I suffered this. When I made that change, okay, and so being able to validate that you have gone through what they're going through or will go through is important, but as soon as possible, get it back to them.
That makes sense. I just want to be the guinea pig there to say, look, it's possible, because the work that I do is certainly about making change in other people. I'm pretty happy with where I am now, and that's, I don't need to talk about myself.
It helps. I mean, when you mentioned your book just now, I'm sure out of habit, you said it was a New York Times bestseller. That's bragging.
Cool. Thanks for that. I'm always torn now because with ebooks,
bestseller. I'm sure it just comes out, right?
Yeah. Thanks for that feedback.
But it's bragging. See, it depends on how face to face you are with the person you're talking to.
Right.
When you're literally face to face, you can see it in their eyes when there's doubt.
Okay.
Therefore, you can move the story that you're telling to satisfy that doubt by saying, this, I wrote a book on this, right? And X thousands of people used it, and I get, letters and emails telling me thanks. Okay, so it will work. And let them assume that it was a bestseller given the numbers that whatever. But if you're telling a story as you do, broadcasting, then you can't see their faces, and you have to sense when their doubt might arise, and find a way to move the story towards something that would satisfy that doubt. If you've done this long enough, you know how to have that sort of sixth sense that tells you, this is a point where I think I need to use a little rhetoric, introduce the facts, and to bolster this moment. And how much or how little of that, who can say? It really depends on so many factors that vary from story to story. But the beautiful thing about story is it allows you, if you come to a turning point, it allows you, you've got their curiosity, it allows you then to dump exposition in and to pour in the facts because they're hooked. They want to know, how is this going to turn out? And at that point, then comes the data. And so the story incorporates data wonderfully. And so you've got facts to back up, but you want to put them in a context at a moment when they're really hooked and they really want to know. In what you were saying at the very beginning in your introduction, that there's a neurology to this, there's a neuroscience behind this, and that when you tell a story really well, there comes a moment in the listener, in the audience, where their mind is absolutely open and receptive. At that point, you put in the brand. In that point, you put in the last step, the one you want them to take to look into the service or the product. And you can't get that in rhetoric. Rhetoric is arm twisting of a certain kind. But story just opens people up and makes them receptive when it's well done, of course. All of this is predicated on skill and a really well told story.